Traveling is all fun and games until it turns into a nightmare. Welcome back everyone, I'm Val, and today I bring you another reaction video on crazy travel stories people post on the internet. So let's get right to them. For these videos, I usually react to travel stories that get posted on TikTok, but today we're going to read some Reddit stories, specifically from the subreddit Ask Reddit. So the post says, Solo travelers, what is your creepiest travel story? And our first story is from a user called Slayer of Vampires, and it says, for me it was when I was driving from Georgia to California to visit a friend. I didn't want to fly because I wanted to sightsee on the way. When I got to San Diego, the hotel I booked on Expedia screamed run from the get-go. But I was exhausted and wanted to rest. Got my room key and checked in. I locked the door, and because I am always on guard, I locked the bar on the door for extra safety. About 4 a.m. I was sleeping and heard someone trying to come in my room. They had opened the door but couldn't get past the little part that was locked. So I guess it was a physical lock or something like that. Those very old hotels usually have this on doors. I quickly got up, threw clothes on, and went to the door to see what was going on. Two guys outside the door with their hand in the slit of the door yelling at me. They kept saying, come here pretty girl, or a pretty face, or something like that. I called the front desk to see what was going on, and they said, oh, I didn't know you were still here? I was beyond furious and went to the front desk with all my stuff. The lady at the desk said I didn't have a reservation even though I had my papers saying I checked in, my card stickers from parking there, and the room key. She said she rented the room out that I was in for the next month. Flabbergasted, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She looked up my information and said, oh, I see you didn't book with us but Expedia. We don't partner with them. Still confused as to why the world I was giving a room paid for it and had issues being in it. She refused to call the manager at 5 a.m. by that point, so I waited until they got in at 9 a.m., demanded a refund, got it, and checked out. No matter how terrified the ordeal seemed, I think it would have ended differently had I not locked the bar on the door. Jesus. This is very common actually when you booked in hotels or hostels through certain websites. Sometimes the reservation doesn't get through. Now, the part where she almost got somebody into her room, it sounds right straight out from a game.
No! God, please, no!
If you ever played something called Fears to Fathom, these are the types of stories that get played there. So that's really terrifying. And I can actually picture the type of hotel that she was left in. It's insane. So moral of the story, always be safe and put an extra lock on your doors, especially when the place looks shady. On to the next story. This one is from a person named Fluxy2535. Had some dude try to hold me off my first day in Berlin. Oh my god, it started greatly. He stopped to ask me a question when I was in... I cannot pronounce that. Tiergarten. Sorry, my German speakers. And proceeded to grab me by the wrist and refused to let me go. I had told him I was going to Alexanderplatz, and he started dragging me out of the park, telling me he would show me a shortcut. What? That he insisted would only take 5 minutes to get there. For those of you that have never been, it's at least 30 minutes walk. Jesus. I was so panicked I didn't know what to do and couldn't even scream. All I could think of was that he was going to take me somewhere where no one will be able to help me. I had a friend who I was staying with in the city text me at the right time and managed to beg off and say she was waiting for me back at Brandenburger Tor station, which was the opposite direction. He only let me go if I open mouth kiss him goodbye. What? And gave me his number, which he made me a call so he was sure I had the right one. He was pulling me towards the Holocaust Memorial, so after he let go, I rushed to it and hid in it so he wouldn't follow me. Funnily enough, that night was the first day of the 2014 World Cup. I was still really shaken, but still wanted to watch the game. I also wanted to go somewhere where I could talk to people in English because I was very dealing with Germans at that point. I ended up at an Irish bar, and the Irish bartender is now my husband, and we live in Berlin. Wow, okay.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
I guess this is a girl as well, and again we have dangerous stories with females. What is going on?
Oh, shit.
Here we go again.
But it's really weird. To be honest, in all my time solo traveling, I never had weird experience with guys pulling me over or something like that. Tops, they ask for my number or they ask if I have a boyfriend, which, by the way, remember to always say that you are not alone and that you do have a boyfriend. Otherwise, it gets dangerous. But yeah, that's tops what has happened to me. Good thing at least the story ends with a happy ending though. I mean, one comment in the story actually says, I'm so glad this took such a good ending. True. Now on to the next story. So this one is from a user called Lavender142. It says, traveling in South America by myself as a 22-year-old woman. Okay, this one started great. Arrived to Santiago, Chile by bus really late at night, like around 10 p.m. Shortly after I got off the bus, a guy comes up to me from the general area of the taxi stand and asks if I need a cab, and I say yes. We start walking to his cab and it's really far away, like at least 5 blocks. That should have been your first red flag in my opinion, but okay, let's continue. I start to feel kind of uneasy, but I'm also in the middle of this big unfamiliar city and just try to reassure myself it's fine. As a South American, I'm going to say do not. I double check his cab has all the normal brand markings when we finally get to it. I sit up front with my bag, more out of habit. It's common to do this in Ubers in South America. That's very true. It is very common to sit in the front seat, like right beside to the driver in many Ubers in South America. So if you ever get an Uber in any of South American countries and sit in the front seat, or the driver asks you to sit in the front seat, don't be alarmed. It's very, very common. So it says, I give him the address of the hostel I booked and we small talk in Spanish for the first few minutes of the ride. And then there's a bit of a natural pause, which he breaks by looking over at me and saying very calmly, are you scared? What? Of course, that really freaked me out, but I tried to stay calm. I just laughed a bit and was, haha, no, I'm good, just tired and it's late. And he goes, well, you seem pretty scared back there when we were walking. You know, there is a lot of bad people around here. Sometimes they pretend to be taxis. You never know who to trust. I've heard of women being sold after taking a bad taxi. Are you traveling here alone? Are you kidding me? What kind of conversation is this? The other day I saw a news of a woman throwing herself off a taxi because she was scared about the overtaking at the tour. I have a feeling this is how the story will end. Let's move on. This is while we're still driving through the middle of the city. It's dark and it's late and I'm now painfully aware literally no one knows where I am. I was going to message my family with an update when I got to the hostel. They don't know I'm in Santiago. They think I'm still on the coast. Of course I don't say that and tell him that I'm always very careful and actually my group of friends knows I'm on my way and they are waiting for me at the hostel. I see a stoplight coming up and was literally thinking that as soon as the car slowed down, I was going to make a break for it and just jump out of the car. Told you. Probably the most scared I've been in my life. Then out of the corner of my eye, I see this guy reaching down for something under his seat. And my brain is just going gun, gun, gun. Oh my god, it's going to be a gun.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
I mean, what else are you supposed to think in that situation? Instead, he pulls out a pamphlet and then goes, but you know, there's always one thing we can trust, right? The Lord? Do you believe in God? Are you kidding me? No, wait a second, this can't be. Okay, finally, and then proceeded to try and convert me for the remaining of the ride. Turns out to be harmless, but in the moment that random religious cab driver scared the absolute shit out of me. One comment says, the surprise ending made me laugh. Thank God he was harmless. Are you joking right now?
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
Look, if you're a religious person and you're watching my channel, never do this. Like, this is not a way of converting people. Absolutely not. Are you insane? And also, it's a South American country. Like, I got from the story that she's also South American, but this must be fucking terrifying. People are insane. I'm glad they are fine, but this could turn out to be really, really awful.
It could be worse.
Jesus. Let's move on to the next story. So this one is from a user called MarkHouse5. It says, when I was traveling in Thailand in 2007, me and my buddies went to a full moon party with some people from our hotel. For those who don't know what the full moon party is, it's one of the most popular parties in Thailand, especially for foreigners. It happens during full moon every month in Kopangnan Island. So moving on, it says, there were two English girls that came along too, and we hung out with them for a bit before we all went off on our separate ways. If you ever been, you'll know how popular the buckets were, and they got you pretty pissed. Yes. So for context, the many bars that are scattered across the beach sell these huge cocktail buckets that is not a shot, it's literally a bucket where they make any cocktail of your choice for you, and they give you 2 straws to drink. So when they say that it gets you pretty pissed, yeah, it's a lot of alcohol for just one person or even two. So it says, anyway, at some point past midnight, I went off on my own to grab a couple more for me and the 2 mates I went traveling with. As I was in the queue, I saw one of the English girls being half carried off away from the main party areas with someone. I ran up to her and managed to push the guy away and told him she was my friend and I looked after her. I remember him just walking back off towards the crowd again. Managed to get her to my mates, then we took her back to the hotel where her mate was, thankfully waiting for her. She said they got separated at some point and she didn't know what to do. I saw the girl in the morning and she couldn't remember a thing that happened. Jesus, why so many dangerous stories about women? A comment says, I don't want to think of what almost happened to her. Yeah. Look, if you've been in this channel for long enough,
I just got here.
you know that I'm biased about Thailand and it's my favorite country. I live there and all of that. But I'm also very much aware that Thailand has a certain fame where places are very dangerous for women in general. So I don't even want to begin to imagine what could have happened to this person. Don't get so drunk at parties.
Where's the fun in that?
That's the moral of the story. When you're traveling, if you're traveling alone, do not get drunk. Never let go of your drink. Be careful when strangers offer drinks to you. And if you're traveling with people, just be very careful when getting drunk. You never know when these kinds of things happen. I know when we're traveling, we're in a different kind of mood, but we always need to be very careful with ourselves. Men and women alike. Like, this has no gender distinction. So on to the next story. So our final story is from a user named Aged, and it reads, I'm American and live in Malaysia for several years towards the tail end of high school. I have 2 stories. 1. I traveled to Vietnam with my sister and father. One of the places we visited was an area of concentrated tunnels upkept from the Vietnam War era. We had the option of touring some of the tunnels and jumped at the chance. If you've ever been to Ho Chi Minh City, you can actually see bunkers of the Vietnam War era as well. So moving on. We started out in a small town with holes at eye level that just clear the earth's surface. Perfect for shooting at the feet of the enemy. We were then led down a tunnel that required us to stoop, seeing as we were significantly taller than our Vietnamese guide. Fair enough. We came to another small room. Our guide told us that one tunnel led up and out, the other led to what was once a weapon cache. My sister and I really wanted to see that room, but my dad had enough and asked to be let out. To this day, I have no idea what my thought process was, but I decided to let my sister to the next room. I might have been under the impression that there was a second guide there, waiting for us. Spoiler alert, let me guess, there was nobody. Moving on. Unsurprisingly, it got dark. The guide had the flashlight and the hanging lamp from the previous room got harder to see by. I kept thinking, it has to be just a few feet further. Instead, the tunnel got shorter and shorter until we were basically crawling forwards in the dark, single file. I remember looking back and realizing the tunnel must have curved or something because the lamp light was gone. There wasn't enough space to turn around, so I kept going. I felt horrible, like I had just condemned my sister and I to dying in the dark, crushed by the ever-shrinking tunnel. Jesus. Imagine a teenage boy in that situation. I can understand the train of thought. Eventually, the floor in front of me ended. Thinking back, we had probably reached the weapon catcher room and only needed to drop a couple of feet to stand. But in the dark, I only felt empty air in front of me. I'm pretty sure that moment is the moment I developed a fear of really wide open spaces, because to this day, I can imagine some giant maw inches from my flailing arm looking for purchase. I told my sister we'd have to crawl backwards, and goddamn if that middle schooler wasn't an absolute trooper about the whole thing. kudos for the sister. Unfortunately, we must have taken a turn without realizing it because we started down there blind, lost, crawling in the dirt for what I would later learn was about an hour. The guide eventually found us, and I've never been happier to see a flashlight. Oh my god. If you ever been to war sites or things like that, you may know it also can get pretty dark and crowded and small, like really fast.
That's what she said.
This story actually reminds me of other similar stories in Les Catacombs in Paris, that according to history that place is actually really big, but people can only explore like the 10% of them, and it always has to be with a guide. But some crazy people that I don't understand what they are thinking about their life have explored other tunnels in the catacombs, and they've gotten lost, and there is, I think, even a case of someone dying or something like that. So do not try this. They were kids, so yeah, I guess that can tell us something, but we are all adults here, I guess. If you're a kid watching me, this also goes for you. Do not. So the second story from this person says, I had an early morning conditioning for track. So I opted to walk the couple of miles to school rather than wake up my dad, couldn't legally get a driver's license, and frankly didn't want to drive in that hellscape. So I'm walking in the twilight hour, alone, a young white boy in my private school uniform. Easy prey for the two dudes that brandished knives and demanded I pay them. Oh my god. Being dumb and young, I dropped my bag and sprinted the remaining mile to school. Their moped was far enough away that I lost them before they got moving, thank god. If that happened to me again now, I just caught up the money they wanted. No doubt the $30 equivalent in their money was for walking away unscathed. I've learned to carry two wallets when traveling in less than scrupulous areas. One for all my important cards IDs and one that's empty except for some cash. Would you believe me if I tell you that I do something similar here in South America with my phone? I carry two phones, my official one and a sort of burner one in case I ever get robbed or anything. I will hand the other phone instead of my original one.
Oh, that's a brilliant plan.
Anyways, that must have been horrible, and I bet this person has many crazy stories about Asia when he was a kid. Because again, I'm biased about Thailand, but I know what it's like living in a third world country. Both because I'm Colombian and now I live in Thailand, and things get shady in some places. So those are all of our stories for today. Let me know in the comments what you think about them. If anything has ever happened to you when you're traveling, I would love to read any of your crazy or horror travel stories. Also, don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you like my content and to subscribe and turn on notifications so YouTube keeps helping us grow. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all on the next reaction.